think that says Susan and the one and Benjamin. Let me try to make this look a little bit better. I don't know. It's kind of useless. Sorry, I'm starting so late. I had an eye appointment, and they put drops in my eye. I still can't quite. Anyway, I'm better now, but I couldn't really see earlier, and I can now, I think, and we can get started. I forgot to warn him, but I'm sure I can call him. I spoke to him earlier, and we can get him on. I notice DJT is up to 35 almost. Mr. Wu pointed us out to PNPNF, and that's slightly down right now, but it was green earlier today, and I continue to thank him for pointing that out. I'll try to get an interview on that. Is my talkie, is it working? Audio, is it working? Apparently it was really bad yesterday. Finger is down 3 cents. Let's just check there. I don't think there's any. Yeah, there's no reason that it's down other than ongoing corruption. The election, of course, is tomorrow. For my reasons, I've said before, I welcome all political views just as long as you can explain why. I don't like mudslinging without, if you say, hey, I'm all for so-and-so because she does such and such. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. But for me personally, I'm finding myself pretty vested in wanting Donald Trump to be our next president. I would have supported RFK. Frankly, I would have supported Tulsi Gabbard too. But what's weird is how it's all turned out. I think they make a better team with his punching above his weight. Well, that's a lot of weight. But with his breaking through and pulling those guys in, maybe she'll be the head of the Defense Department. He might be the AG or something, but they'll get 4 years of experience, and maybe they then could be excellent candidates themselves next time. But anyway, I look at it and I say, how can he lose? And then I just get sick. I see these polls that say she's tied or she's winning, and she's the greatest thing since contact lenses. And I don't know. I just don't think they're going to let Trump be president. The only answer to it is when you think about it, the polls have just stayed flat, so they're probably rigged. They move around a tiny bit. So one surprise to me would be that those polls are correct. That would be one surprise. The other surprise would be they're just totally worthless, and he wins Virginia. He wins New Jersey. He just wins some states that no one's even expecting, and then they can't cheat. but apparently they can. They can. We'll see. She's going to be Mike Pence. If Trump wins, she'll be Mike Pence. We'll see if she is as good as her accusations against Trump imply about transitioning power. Anyway, tomorrow's going to be a big day. If he wins tomorrow, like 10 o'clock, 2 a.m., great. But if they don't call the election tomorrow, I don't think he's going to win. But anyway, all we can be is a witness. All we can do is witness it. I think it'll be history. I think there's a risk. Either way, there's going to be a risk to the United States financially and a risk to your portfolios. I judge that there's greater risk of civil riots if Trump wins than if she wins. So maybe in that sense, it's better if she wins. But I think our country will split asunder, and the great United States of America experiment will end. Anyway, what else? I do have my eyesight's not quite there. I do have the October issue of this. Yesterday I flipped through the September, and we can do that. But while the market's open, let me see if I can get Ham on. Well, let me look at your questions first. Buy Intel. He's saying buy Intel. Buy Intel. Wow. That's interesting. All right, let's see what you're saying. I can't read very well. It's the dilating, but I'll do my best. I'll put it here so I can read it. Hi Susan. Hi Narad, Eddie, and of course Benjamin was number one. The one was number two, yet remained the one. I'm cool. I'm actually cold. This place is cold. Hey, Vincent. Hey, Mark. Cool as a cucumber. Is that a pickle? Hey, Mark. Hey, Frank. Oh, it's good. All right, cool. What anyway, I turned my computer off for a few hours, and maybe that's what changed. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Zizu. Have you seen areas board up? Yeah, but I didn't. I saw it on the tube, but I didn't walk down. I know where they boarded up, and I believe it because when J6 time frame and the 2 time frames before that, they boarded things up. But it was Antifa and the liberals and the FBI itself, it looks like, who did the destruction, not people that flew in from red states and blue states. Oh, it could have been Ham, a hamster. I'll try to get him on here in a second. I like how you're thinking. Uh, Things are going to speed up after this election. And for those of you who are able to spread your wings a little bit, we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't stick around too long in this country if you're a part of the patriarchy, and you know who you are. You know who you are if you're part of the patriarchy. They will isolate us like they have with peoples in the past. It won't be safe. Yeah, that Iowa, you're talking, that Iowa poll was debunked. I heard somebody say a really smart thing. I didn't think of it. It was Huckabee said it. He said, you know how you can know that that poll was complete junk? If, in fact, Kamala were beating Trump, Trump would be in Iowa. She'd be in Iowa. They all knew it was a fake poll. Hey, Barbara. I don't know what's going on. Let me just check my text messages, but I don't. It's obviously not today, Steve. I'll go ahead and say it out loud. There's some sort of news or release or filing or something. I'd have no idea what it is. And he has to wait for that to be announced, filed, delivered, whatever, before he can interview. I didn't say that before because I'm not sure. I didn't know how to handle it, but I don't think there's any harm in saying that he told me he could only speak to me after whatever it is comes out. And I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's good, bad, ugly, a duckling or a swan. And I don't know. But nothing was released today or filed today. So as soon as you see something and I see it, we'll all see it at the same time. He will then be able to have an interview with me. And I'm sure I'm the highest on his list of all all the people he has to talk to. Look at I don't. A lot of these stocks start to move. You know, just when you finally give up on them, they start to pop up. And this daily babysitting of one stock or another isn't always the way to keep your mental sanity. It is a good basis for a community. I saw a comedy skit on that, how preachers use that word, community, sanctity. Others, you know, like I can't think of any right now, but community was one of them. Yeah, anyway. I like rum. Well, I don't know anything about it, but that may be something to consider. I really like yesterday, we talked about, I should try to get that article up there somehow. How could I do it so you could see it? I have to think of how to do it. But I really liked that Barron's article, talked about a lot of the stocks, which I've already talked to for a year now, a little, probably more than a year. And I wish that one of our deals had worked so that we could already be there. But I tell you what, a position, if you listen to that one analyst at Vertical, was it called Vertical? His target on Newmont Mining is $60. And I'll by the time the cycle's over, Newmont and Barrick both will be $100. Those are good places to put your money. You don't have to. You don't have to be. You don't have to be. I can't. I don't know why. Why is it so hard to do things sometime? I can't read over there. But rum, I don't know. Might be good. Hey, media junkie. Is there any media to be junkie about anymore? Hey, Gerald. I don't want to know the story of that squirrel. I cannot stand how cruel human beings are to animals. Do you ever see animals, even the most ferocious bear or lion? Sometimes they want help from human beings, and what do they get? They get shot. Why do we have to live in every single green space on the planet? Can't we let the elephants have a jungle or two? We have to shoot them all so we can drive our SUVs in and build a cabin and bring the internet. And oh God, we're so lucky to have these animals. And if you notice, they all kind of look alike. They're different. They're different, but they all got noses and eyes and fluffy ears and paws, and none of them speak. A woman once told me I'd do a lot better in my love life if I just didn't speak. Thank you, Lee. Yeah, Ham's great. He's, Ham doesn't get bothered by a lot. And I personally find Ham very intelligent and quick. But it's in his field of experience. I don't think he'd be that quick giving you a discussion of Bernini's David versus Michelangelo's David, which struck him better. I wouldn't either, but I like Bernini's David much better than Michelangelo's. Martin Shen is the CEO of Finger, and he let me know, I guess last week, whenever I told you, that he was in Asia. It was 1 week ago, and he was going to be at a conference in California, and that he would be glad to do an interview with me as soon as the company either released news or made a filing or something. There's some bit of, which I didn't say before because it's an uncomfortable area, is that supposed to be confidential or not? But today was the day that something was going to either be filed or press released. It's clear, Sean, that CEOs have to follow the dictates of full disclosure. When you're a short, when you're a criminal, you can do anything you want, anything, and nothing will come of it. You can lie, manipulate, collude, print false research, manipulate algorithms. You can sell stock that doesn't exist. You can spoof. you can swap, you can come on and attack people, you can do anything. And Wagner doesn't care because she's such a mental midget that she believes that she's protecting privacy. It's almost like her husband died and she was given the seat in Congress. And just to be clear, when I get upset, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying at all that women can't hold positions in Congress or be regulators or be CEOs or be presidents. But if you're just plucked out and the only skill you have is manipulating men and smiling cute, and you didn't work that hard in high school or college or law school, you fail the bar, you date a guy, date another guy, date Montel Williams, and then all of a sudden you're up for this, up for that, up for that, and your sole qualification, other than having slightly darker skin than the average bear, is that you're a woman. So you check those boxes. As we know, the problem with society is men. Just go down to North Carolina, where FEMA spent money, $87 million, flying people that aren't citizens into the United States. What bugs me more than anything, they're not screened for disease. What about smallpox, polio, which is making a comeback in Gaza Strip? What insanity. That's me. I worry more about the diseases. But we live in this climate, beautiful climate of North America, where we're not exposed to a lot of these diseases. Well, just fly them all in. But she's the best for the job. But down in North Carolina, these men got on tractors and trucks and built roads. Not FEMA, men. Toxic, horrible, racist, misogynistic white men got on top of earth movers and built roads and saved people in North Carolina. Where was the president and the vice president in North Carolina and Georgia? Where? You don't even know how many people died. Where was the press? Where was Dan Rather? Where's Bob Woodward? You guys, I really feel sorry. I was a kid mostly, and then a young man, and we had good institutions. We had good news. It all started changing under Bill Clinton when he pushed through. No Republican could get it through. He pushed through the Orwellian named, Best Media Act of 1992. It was I forget the title, the Telecommunications Act. It had a nickname. And that merged all our media together. And Bill Clinton and his wife were the first tranche of lawyers. They don't care about truth. They care about what you can enter into evidence. They're all clever liars. Now let me be very specific and use my words carefully. I'm not speaking about Richard Hoffman. Talking about Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and other lawyers that can't define what a woman is or define the word is. Anyway, I remember when we had, I remember when the newspapers were fun to read. Man, they were fun to read. Now it's just crap. This book on the war, there's something about this wave of young women, and there's men with them, but I think the men are the simps. They want to sleep with these women, so they go along with it, I think. but there's something about how they're taught in school, and there's no truth anymore. It's just how they were taught, and drives you crazy. I can make my own. I can make my own assessment. I don't need someone telling me that if Trump was questioning the results of the election, that's all lies. Just give me the evidence. Let me determine. I can determine if I feel like he's lying. That's one example. Yeah, Rasmussen poll was up 10. See, that's just what that's just what I wanted to avoid, Justin. I did not say there's news coming. And I don't want to hype. I'm talking, let's be specific. Let's choose our words carefully. I'm meant to do an interview with Martin Shen, the CEO of Finger Motion. Martin Shen would like to do that interview. However, because of the requirement of a CEO to fully distribute information before he speaks, there's quiet periods. And he can't talk. I have no idea what it is. I didn't say it was news. It could be that they're changing their name to Babish Motors. I have no idea. I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, there's great news coming. I've got to buy the stock. I don't want you to think, oh, there's bad news coming. I didn't say anything other than he has to disclose something before he can talk to me. And I wouldn't be putting all this pressure on. This is one of Ham's endearing qualities, but it's also one that's annoying, which is push, 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 push. Let's get that out. Let's get it. When is it? When is it? It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. I don't need all that. It'll come when it comes. But now everyone's on the edge of their seat, and now you've put out, so there is news. I didn't say that, Justin. I don't know. I've got to be very clear with my words. There is something that Finger Motion either has to disclose, file, or press release in fulfillment of Reg FD, full disclosure, before he can talk to me. That filing, release, or disclosure was meant to be today, which is why today was possibly when I could interview him. It hasn't happened. Now you're going to go, oh, what's wrong? Why hasn't he gotten it out? There's something dastardly. No. Have you ever heard of lawyers? In the world's creation, there's sloths, snails, World Bank employees, lawyers. Everything they do is SLOW. And the rest of us wait. But they get paid because they went to Harvard and they're a lawyer and they deserve the big bucks. Which reminds me of the comments I made on something else, but I'm going to not comment on those. All right, here we go. Hello. Am I in a place that's familiar? I'm in the Clink.
Battery 100%.
They got me for streaking down Connecticut Avenue. All right, you're on the speaker. You can go live. Oh, hang on. You were on the speaker. There, you can go live.
I'm just thinking of the questions for the CEO all day. And, I spoke to a friend of mine, and the question about these trucks is the key to the answer to the whole thing is what's the profit margin? And I think it's important you stay away from how many they have, because I think the SEC will attack the company that you're putting out these numbers that you can't achieve or whatever. I think that you don't want to put the company in a bad spot. We don't need any headaches. But I think the key to the whole thing is how much do you make, and then we can figure out the truck.
Do you think I can ask him how much he makes a year?
No, how much do they make on the installation of the whatever this truck nonsense is?
Oh God, I can't stand the
what?
I've tried to make it clear. So the reason Martin can't do an interview today is that he told me there was something that had to be disclosed today. I don't know if it's news, a filing, or just some sort of perfunctory disclosure, but he has to follow Reg FD. He can't talk to me until that, and then everybody's, oh, so there's great news. Oh, whatever, what is the news? Guys, this was what drives me crazy. I can't say anything that it doesn't get ramped up into something.
I didn't know you weren't going to do it. So listen.
I didn't say I'm not going to do it. God.
No, we can't do it today. That's all. No big deal. That's how it goes.
He told me. God, it's people.
There's nothing to be. Oh God, relax. You can't do it. Everybody, sit in your pants. What do you want to do? There's nothing you can do. He
said if there's something that they have to file or whatever, I don't know what it is, but if it's not ready, he has to postpone. But he was trying to see if I was available for Monday. Clearly, whatever it wasn't ready, and I would blame it on lawyers, not on him. But it doesn't help. Telling you everything makes it only worse. Anyway, I'm sure we're going to talk to him this week. It's just not going to be the day.
It's no big deal when you do talk to him. I'm just thinking about questions out loud to myself. And listen, it's disgusting to watch these guys keep manipulating the stock until someone sells it. That's all they're doing. DJT, they manipulated it down to 28 today. It hit 35 today. If you don't think there's something strange going on in the equity markets, what can I tell you? That's the next president of the United States stock that they fuck around with. Finger motion is not the next president of the United States, and still they fuck around with that guy's stock. So that's how big the demon is here. Forget all the other demons that are going on in this country. Naked short selling, to me, is one that's keeping everyone in financial check and making us slaves because we can't get financial freedom. We can't make a quick $100,000 and pay off your credit cards, or, they want you to go play the lottery for $1 and hope you hit them.
Or it doesn't even have to be quick. It could just be a steady trading. There's no price discovery. So how do you trade it?
There's nothing to trade. You can't even look at it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say. It's just the manipulation. Every day, the stock has a seller every day for 8 months now. I mean, I can't even count how long it's been. And it's all been on good news. I at some point, I wish I could call the company up and say, hey, you know what, just fucking go raise all the money you want. Fucking who gives a shit? Just do what you got to do. It can't be any worse. That's what these guys are trying to do. It's obvious. They look at the cover. Look at GameStop. They covered, the stock went up. Those idiots keep pushing it up. I don't know. I don't even know what to say anymore. Does the SEC head of enforcement quit? The head of the SEC is a lame duck. The thing's just fucking drifting down the road. Everybody knows that naked short selling is security fraud. And we have to sit here every day as adults having a conversation. Oh, what are you going to talk to the CEO today? And it comes when it comes. If you want to bitch and moan, call the SEC up and ask them who's hitting the sell button every fucking day. I mean, I've been watching and babysitting this thing for years. I reported, put the truck out there. Williams filmed himself in front of the truck. And the SEC hasn't done a thing. Stop trading the stock and see who's the sell tickets, where they're coming from. That's how easy it would be. But they can't. Because when they do, once you stop trading, you get a count, and there's too many longs, it's over with. That's it. Then the whole world will know that the stock market is completely rigged.
Yeah.
Anyway, William, I didn't know you were going to be on, and
I can barely see because my eyes are dilating or something. But
so why don't we do it tonight? I have to run into therapy and get my leg work done. I apologize. I didn't know you were even on. I was just driving.
All right. Well,
just gonna run into therapy for an hour, and I'll be back done after 4. So I can't do anything about it. I can sit there and post while I'm being tortured. I could do that. That I can do.
What kind of therapy is it? Marriage therapy or?
You lay on your back. And the guy puts my foot flat on his left shoulder, and he presses, trying to bend my leg. And the leg is so tight, he has to push through it. And
that doesn't sound like therapy. That sounds sadistic.
That's what it's. It's just what it is. It's very tough. It's very tough. And when I walk out of there, I always say to the therapist, "Am I the only person that cries?" They go, "Absolutely not. Everybody does." It's just so painful. It's unbelievable, the pain. But I went from a range of motion was at 90. Now it was 100. Today was 110. And my right leg is 135. So if I close that gap, I graduate, and they send me loose back out into the pickleball world. So I got to just keep pressing on it.
Does the new knee bend forward or bend backwards?
Does it bend forward? Actually, I think he's trying to break it so it goes the opposite way. That's what I think he's doing. They have to straighten out the bones to make sure they're straight. That's what they're doing. Yeah, they tell me it's moving, and that's what the grinding is. I'm like, look, so you just got to keep going through it. And I feel bad for the people that are 70 and older. It's impossible to. I'm very, very, very active and play ball every day. And it's, I ride the bike, I do everything. And these poor people that aren't active or overweight, they're just devastated by this stuff. It can't be, it's impossible. So if anyone has a family member that has to get a knee replacement, make sure they're up and walking and doing exercises 3 months before they get the surgery. Do not wait. They'll never survive the surgery, or it'll just be a shit job and where you got to suffer. Anyway, I got to run.
All right, go do that. We can talk. You can come on later.
All right, thank you.
All right. So, depending on how my dog acts, we can talk till 4, and then when he's done, he can call in while I'm driving back. Finger fake shares. Can you summarize why they're not showing up on a how do the dark pools contribute? Let's see how to explain it. I don't know. It's hard. I think some of this went on under, it was called the Reg G, Reg F, Reg D, Reg. Anyway, there was a safe harbor if you were offshore and you got some of these exemptions if you were large offshore players, but mostly none of that. Look, there's a gap between when I was on Wall Street and when Reg Show was promulgated. But I think Reg Show is the real problem here. I also think the financial crisis of 2008 is the real problem here. But you used to go to Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, Smith, and Bean, and they would custodial your shares. So you would buy, well, that's a completely different issue. But you would call into your broker and you'd say, I'd like to buy 200 shares of Shell Transport, and you give a price. If I were your broker, I'd take it, I'd write it down, I'd fold the ticket, I'd look at it, I'd write it, I'd repeat it to you. This is to confirm that you want to buy 200 shares of Shell Transport at the market now, today. Yes, 200 share. Okay, let me get the order in. As I walk up to the tube station, I'll read that back to myself. As I grab one of the tubes because they were in hot demand, just before I put it in, I read it one more time. My friend Mike would, he'd read still. They'd call out, I think what was his number? Can't remember his number, but he always screwed up. He always got it backwards, and then it's expensive. But I put it in the tube. It goes to the order room. The order room, the guy pulls it out, gives it to the order entry person. I forget the name. It goes down to Merrill. It goes up to Merrill in New York. Goes down to Merrill's floor traders, in this case on the New York Stock Exchange, and it goes to a specialist. It goes to a guy standing there, and he might cover 20 stocks, and one of them is Shell Transport, and he has a market, and there's a bid and an ask, there's size, and he gives it to you. If it's plenty of buyers and sellers, he might give it to you in the middle of the market. He might give it to you right at the ask, and you're done. It comes, and then it goes, in my case, AE 6969. Please check your station, AE 6969. Boom, and it come, and it be printed, filled. And I call the client up and I say, you did buy 200 shares of Shell Transport at $25.87.5. Oh, thank you very much. You'll be receiving the confirmation in the mail. Please send the money. Believe it or not, they didn't have to have the money in their account. Please send the money by settlement, which is 5 days. That's how it used to be. Well, institutions were not a big part of Wall Street. Retail was the biggest part. There were funds, and some funds would do the Growth Stock Opportunity Fund did all of its business through one of my offices, made a broker rich. But the institutions weren't a huge part of Wall Street. You didn't have big pools like Larry Flink with $12 trillion under trillion. under management. You didn't have that, but now you do. So what I just described to you was part of Merrill Lynch. If you asked me, well, now that I own Shell Transport, do you have any research on that? Yes, yes, we do. I can send that out to you, and I would send it out. I couldn't type anything. They give us little pieces of paper. You could only write a quick note. If you wrote more than just Sean enclosed, William, if you wrote more than that, you'd have to send it up to New York for approval first. So that's how they controlled information flow. But there was internal research. There were also, on the over-the-counter market stocks like Finger, there were trading desks. And so Merrill Lynch would make a market in Finger. Merrill made a market in a lot of over-the-counter stocks. But some firms got known for technology, like an Alex Brown or a Johnston Lemon. Some firms got known for real estate. Some firms got known for oil and gas. And I'm having a hard time thinking of all the small firms that were out there. Some were known for fixed income, but they had trading desks. And so you could pull up on Finger, you would get your market, and you would see the symbol for Merrill Lynch or for Alex Brown or for Laidlaw or for Prudential Beige or other companies you hadn't heard of, bid and ask. And but as a broker, both institutional retail, if you didn't have the fancy, I guess there were fancier things. We just had small. They were called Bunker Ramo back then, but we could see the bid and ask, and you could call if you were a broker of standing. You could call down to the desk. Otherwise, you had to call a liaison to the desk. Pain in the ass. But you could get the market. But the point is, Merrill would trade Finger. So if you were to call me up and say, I would like to buy 1,000 Finger motion, I would say, well, right now it's $1.75 to $1.85, and what are you willing to pay? And you might say, I don't care, just buy it at market. So I could call. You couldn't really do this at Merrill unless you were a big shot, but you could call to the desk or to the liaison and say, look, I'd like to buy 2,000 shares at $1.85. What can I get it for? And they might come back and say, you can have it at, you can buy it at, you can have it at $1.79, and then I could build in 6 cents. You wouldn't know about it. I would get my portion of that 6 cents. The house and the desk would get part of it too, most of it. But you would see no commission. But you would be charged commission on top of that trade. So there were ways for, as a broker, to build in some spread, some commission, some extra commission. But They wouldn't let me print it. Well, could I just give that price to the client? They wouldn't let me do that. They wouldn't let me do that. And I guess because they would take it for themselves. But anyway, that's how it was. I'm not trying to get lost in that part aspect of it. Is you would call down and Merrill would do the trade. If they didn't own any stock, they would just go out to the best bid and the best offer. But if there were shares in house, they could give a better price, so there was more commission for them and for me. And sometimes they could have a block. They after hours they'd come on and say, we have this is Lou in the over the counter department. We have 75,000 shares of Finger Motion available. We can make it available at $1.70 with 10 cents. So they print it. I could call you. You would buy it at $1.85, $1.75, cheaper than the market. Sorry, 10 cents, $1.80, cheaper than the market. You'd pay commission on that, and there'd be 10 cents that gets credited to my run. Of course, I might get, depending on how big a shot I was, I might only get 30% of that in my paycheck. But the point is, that's how it used to be. And it was that way a long, long time. There was research. There was investment banking. There was making a market. There were trading desks. And that's what Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith provided, everything, soup to nuts. Well, when Obama gave a free pass to the banks with his cousin George Bush, apparently they're cousins somewhere in their history. One of the things that happened is that the banks, well, there's one other thing that evolved. Banks like Goldman Sachs had never gone public. They'd never been a bank. And they started trading. They started realizing they could make more money trading as if they were a fund, as if they were a hedge fund. So they set up proprietary trading, prop desks in-house. This was an evolution. And then Merrill and others had their own asset management. It was called MLAM, Merrill Lynch Asset Management. So they had these big pools of money and all that. Well, and every brokerage firm did it their own way. What happened in 2008, if I can shift gears to my favorite company, Goldman Sachs traded like a risky hedge fund. They lost money, and they, at that time, I believe, were public, but they didn't want to lose money. These guys are all tough guys, free markets and personal responsibility, and you make money, you lose money, and all that. But when they were losing and they're about to lose their firm, they turned to the government, and Goldman Sachs became a bank. They got FDIC insurance. They became a bank to save their ass. So you bailed them out. Well, what did they do? Goldman Sachs broke into being a prime broker and whatever they call the rest of what they do. They manage money. I don't think they're retail, but they moved the stock loan. They moved the trading, all that into the prime broker. But what happened is the prop desks I don't know what to call their operations. I'll just say operations. It's not completely true in Goldman's case because they continue to trade for their own account. But the prop desks, when these banks broke up, the banks got rid of the risk to get FDIC insurance. In Merrill Lynch it'd be their retail arm. I don't know if Goldman Sachs has retail business. They have high net worth. But anyway, whatever you call their operations. But they would move the prop desks out, and those fellas would just set up a hedge fund. Well, Goldman Sachs or Merrill was no longer getting the trading commission, the interest. Well, that hedge fund trades with the prime broker. So Goldman Sachs is getting the stock loan, the lending, the commission. What misses here? There's no compliance officer. When it was all in one house, there were compliance officers. Now, if the hedge fund calls the prime broker on behalf of Jeff Lind and says, we want to sell 10 million shares of Finger, and they didn't locate it, they didn't borrow it, prime broker doesn't care. They just want the trade. It's on the broker to the broker dealer. I guess that's what I could have called it, broker dealer. It's on the broker dealer to ask for receipt. They don't much care because that client is viewed as a good client, and they know that you're never. The other thing they did, Sean, two things they did. When Merrill Lynch stopped making markets and things, etc., and maybe they still make some markets, I don't know. It's been a long time. It's been a long, lonely, lonely, lonely time. They stopped allowing customers to buy stocks under $5, under $7. And if you bring those stocks in, they'll tell you to sell them. All the big houses will. So not only is there not dedicated research, dedicated trading desks, or compliance following anything, there's no buyers. There's no buyers. And the final coup de grace was, and it's all because of you. They did this. We used to have a type 1 and a type 2 account. And if you wanted to trade on margin, you had to fill out paperwork and move the securities which you wanted to type 2. But you could move them back and forth. Didn't always happen immediately because back then you had an overnight envelope that went to New York or New Jersey, depending on the desk, and they would take care of it. But Merrill Lynch would keep your certificates, your physical certificates, in safekeeping. That's type 1. And it would be on your statement. You could trade them, buy and sell them. That's why there was a 5-day settlement. Because if you sold, they would bike the certificates across town to uh, uh, I don't know, Tucker Anthony, and Tucker would they'd stamp, boom, pop, boom, boom, they changed the name, and the money would come back. That's what the 5-day settlement was about. Well, you could do that inside of Merrill. You could move your certificate into street name, which was type 2. It was in the name of Merrill Lynch. They would facilitate it pretty quickly, but it would take a matter of days. And then Merrill, your shares of Finger would be in Merrill's name. They'd be in street name, but it would be for the benefit of Sean Smith. But Merrill knew they were where they were, and they could lend them out, but they knew where they were, and it was all normal. When Congress passed Reg Show and they put this market maker exemption, number one, you don't need market makers anymore. Everything's done by computer. Do you need a travel agent anymore? Really? I know it's a luxury sometimes you like to use. You don't need it because you can go on your computer and type it in. You don't need a market maker anymore. But what Merrill did with all the other firms is they convinced the regulators to require that all certificates had to be in street name. Everything is in street name. Everything's electronic to be in the system. Everything. It's all in street name. So how do you know, Sean? And this is, you keep, not you, but as a group, you keep asking, what about the real shares or the fake shares? They're all electronic. They can't tell. Nobody can tell. I'm sure if they wanted to, they could create a tagging system, but they don't want to. So what they count on, Sean, the broker-dealer counts on, is you see an entry in your statement. It's black and white. 2,000 shares of Finger trading for $1.83.5, or it's on your computer. You go, oh, I got 4,000, whatever, $3,800 worth of stock. Okay, great. Go on about your life. But you don't know if they're real or if they're Memorex. You don't know. Nobody knows, and nobody cares. Because all Merrill has to do, or whomever you use, when you sell, is give you cash. Well, very rarely do you take the cash out of your account. You'll leave it there. You'll buy something else. So it's not like Merrill's losing anything. They still have the assets. But the reason the broker-dealers don't care, they don't ask for a receipt. They don't even really follow up to see if you ever located the shares. It's all black and white. It's on your statement. You're not going to ask. If they ever get in trouble, that's a small hiccup. They can solve that. But by ignoring it, what they are doing, Sean, is they're using the concepts of fractional reserve banking in the securities system. So remember those commissions I told you about? I'm sure they still exist slightly, but now how a broker, a wealth advisor gets paid, they charge you 3% of your assets annually, and they make other monies too. So if Finger is trading at, let's call it $2, they have 4,000 assets under management at 3%. Is that $12? Not 120, is it? Let me see. Yeah, it's 120. So now, instead of making the money on that spread like I was describing, you own 2,000 shares of Finger at $2. It's $4,000. They charge you 3% of assets under management, so they make $120 a year on your finger motion. Well, it didn't take them long to figure out, what if we used fractional reserve banking principles? Instead of restricting ourselves to real shares, we'll lend them out, stock loan, or we'll hypothecate. And in fractional reserve banking, it's 10 to 1. But the fact is, in today's commercial banking market, it's probably 100 to 1. But for this example, I'll just do 5 to 1. So Merrill Lynch or Goldman Sachs stock loan realized, if we lend those 2,000 out to another one of our customers, we can charge, in addition to fees for the loan, we can charge 3% on the assets under management. We can get $120. So if Goldman Sachs stock loan, there's your money comes in and buys real 2,000 shares, they can lend out 2,000 once, then they can lend it out again, lend it out again, lend it out again, so on, so on, so on. Or they can just look the other way. When somebody else comes in to buy 2,000 shares, they don't deliver it. Same thing. Because then, in the black and white of your statements, they can charge 120 now 5 times, and there's really only one real set of shares backing it up. The rest is all fictional shares. I mean, you could argue this was a loan, but the fact is, these are all Xeroxed copies of your original 2,000 shares. But look what happens to Goldman Sachs. They can earn, instead of $120, they're earning $600. That's what goes on. And there is no distinction between the real and the fake. It's all electronic. There are entries, and I bet if they really wanted to, they could track it down, because they used to do it on our IPOs. There's just entries in your statements. And as long as 100% of the people don't want their stock all at the same time, it's a brilliant scheme. And that's how Wall Street has expanded its assets under management. And then if you own the government, so the government prints trillions of dollars to go to war with Russia, to go to war with Iran, you don't need too much of those trillions of dollars to come into the banking system to buttress all of this. And while we argue, well, Donald Trump grabs them by the and Kamala Harris is the greatest thing since Joan of Arc. because she's a woman. Well, we argue about that. They're just fleecing. So what's the question? Fake shares. Why aren't they on a failure to deliver report? There isn't such a thing. There's a failure to deliver that FINRA announces. According to the guy from Amex, you can't pay attention to that because FINRA doesn't report when they buy them back. So there's the apologists. There's the apologists who don't know better. But there's no public report where they can show up. Ann Wagner will not recommend the consolidated audit trail because the Goldman Sachs, let me use my words very clearly, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Citadel, SAC, Van Eck, all of the big pools of money. But for shorthand, let me call it Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs lobbyists went to Ann Wagner and said, Ann, this would be the biggest database and it would violate privacy. And since she's a complete idiot, she went along with it. But a consolidated audit trail could be made. Blue sheets could be provided. But there's no public record of failures to deliver. No public record. If you follow it daily at the FINRA site, you can track it for 30 days. So I don't know what you're talking about. How do dark pools contribute to the fraud? Dark pools are just trades that are not visible to you. I don't know that they are any different than any other trades. You just don't know about them. But I guess what dark pools can do is manipulate intraday trade, during the day trading, so stocks don't get out of line. So it can manipulate the price, and that's against the law. But Sean, everything is set up so that Wall Street, the honeypot here is assets under management and fees. So they can leverage your 2,000 shares of Finger, they can turn it into 20,000 shares. More fees, more interest, more commission. And that's what the game's about. And as long as they can give you a statement that's black and white, you're going to say, hey, I got it. But you no longer have the ability like you used to do, call me up and say, that was fun trading on margin, but I'd like to go back to having all my shares in my own name. So could you move my shares of Finger and Exxon and Shell Transport? Can you move them out of type 2 to type 1? And I could do that. It would happen overnight. You can't do that anymore. Why? Because it's all electronic, so they can lie to you. I don't know if I've helped. And ETFs are another way, just like I think Robinhood is. These are ways to create places to hide these shorts. Logic. Well, Sada, there's a company, I haven't looked it up, but HNRC that I talked about for a long time, and it just kind of died. It's finally going up. Of course, probably most people didn't buy more. Logic's just that way. There has been news on Logic. It's been placed out there very clear, very precisely. They are going to buy 7 companies. They're going to roll 7 companies into Logic, the shell. I'm not going to go back over how Aubrey Advisors screwed Logic and Collective Audience. But I will say that Logic was left with no money. So over a year ago, Logic could not make its filings. The companies, and there was shorting by Polar and other hedge funds. Maybe real shorting, who knows? But Logic couldn't make their filings for the fourth quarter and the whole year. And as management moved over to put the fires out on the DLQ D-SPAC, which Aubrey Advisors disastrously handled along with Chadron Financial Management, Logic was left sort of naked. The people that were going to reverse merge into Logic left, and there was no money. So they had to issue shares, raise a bit of money, and do their 2023 filings, their fourth quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, then first and second quarter. They've had to keep that shell clean. It's the only value to a shell is that it's clean and it's reporting. So they had employees, they had contractors, they may have had disgruntled professionals that they hired. I don't know. And they had to keep their books clean. This is all because Aubrey Advisors left them with no money. I think Aubrey Advisors did it on purpose so that Polar could make a killing. Because I think Aubrey's Advisors' client is Polar, not the companies that go to Aubrey Advisors. But anyway, so that took Logic into, I don't know, the second quarter. Well, Logic continued to work on getting companies to come into their shell. Sometime this summer, there's an announcement, you can look it up. They announced that they were going to buy, I forget, Medevac. And in that announcement, it said they were going to do 6 or 7 additional companies. And then they've announced yet another company. You can look it up. I don't want to look it up. Vera something or Vera something or other. So they've now definitively tied up 2 out of the 7 companies. It's all in the press releases that they intend to acquire. Now, Sada, we're now in the fourth quarter. Logic has 300 million shares. I don't know if I've got too many zeros there, but Logic has 300 million shares per their press release Logic will be 15% of the shares that are issued to acquire these 7 companies. Well, if they keep it at 300, that'll be 2 billion. But here's the risk. Because that's what the shorts do. They sell it off, so it busts those trades. The first deal, the Medevac, was $100 million. So if you take 15 million, which is our 15% of 100 million. So you take 15 million and you divide it by 300 million shares. It works out to 5 cents a share. So the first deal is worth 5 cents a share. The next deal, it's confusing to tell how much it's worth. It's not worth it that much. Pennies. But here's the problem. If they announce that first deal, done, so that you know about it, and it's 5 cents. They've already announced it. It's definitive. But if they announce it, we'll issue 2 billion shares, or the difference, 1.7 billion shares to buy that. Now, how the next deal that comes, to keep that at 15%, they have to issue more billions of shares. Then the next deal that comes, they have to issue more billions of shares. It becomes really dilutive. And as the price is suppressed, CEOs can bail out. So SATA, they have announced that the deals are done. You can look them up. But they haven't yet announced how the share structure is. It's going to be an art, not a science. But to me, it's because if they get the entirety to merge into essentially 2 billion shares, let's just do that exercise first before we talk about how it could go pear-shaped. Now, they said in their press release that it will be, the 7 companies will be worth a valuation of over 750 million. For the sake of argument, I'm going to say it's $1 billion. They said it's over, what? It's 800,000? I mean, it might be. You can adjust my numbers for that, but I'll say it's $1 billion. So at 15%, that's 150 million divided by 300 million shares, which is our piece. Yeah. It's 50 cents a share. It's 50 cents a share. Now, where can this go wrong? I think we're in the 4th quarter. I bet they're going to issue more shares to just keep the shell clean. So let's say they go to 400 million shares. That's going to lower that 50 cents down to 37.50 unless they negotiate, and it might go up. So let's say it's 37.50. It's going to lower it by a quarter. So at 37.50, the stock now is 2 cents. It's down. They sell counterfeit shares, just like they were doing with HNRC forever, just destroying. So you as a retail investor, there's no research out there. There's no trading desk. There's nothing. They just punish. Well, all of a sudden it starts coming to life. But by then you've given up. And that's what's happening here with Logic. The reason Logic isn't higher than 2 cents is the shorts are still shorting. They're trying to break up the deals. And they also, there's no research that's saying, wow, this could be $1 billion company. But also the deals aren't done yet, so there's uncertainty. And there's there's real shorts, there's shorts maybe that are naked, that are left over and aren't paying attention. And then there's the aggressive criminal shorts. They're trying to break up the deals. So the question, Logic, that you have to ask about Logic, it's not moving. I'm tired. I'm going to get out. The news says that there's going to be 7 companies, 750 million, more than that. So maybe it's 40 cents a share, maybe it's 50 cents a share. Stock's trading at 2 cents. It never goes up. Therefore, the news must be wrong. Therefore, somebody must know there's something wrong with the company. Therefore, the company must be going out of business. Therefore, I should sell at 0.018 or 0.015. And that's the position they put you in, because the markets are total corruption. But just like Root, just like some of these other stocks, Logic will go up when these definitive deals get done. My opinion, he's going to have a hard time getting it done at 300 million shares. It's probably going to go much higher than that. He's going to have a hard time doing it at 2 billion total shares issues, probably going to be much higher than that. He's going to have a hard time keeping 7 CEOs who look at the suppressed criminal stock price, believing that the price should be higher when they cut their deal. So by the time it's all said and done, maybe that 50-cent number I gave you, and then I reduced it to 37.50, maybe we should take half of that. And ironically, when you look at the charts, which I've showed you, the gap that stands out clear as a bell in Logic is between 15 and 17 cents a share. So you buy it at 2 cents, you own it at 2 cents. You can just believe what your eyes tell you. The stock price is telling me that it's worthless. And just believe that and sell and move on. Or like an HNRC, which told its story quarterly after quarter after quarter after quarter, but the selling just comes. They can sell as much stock as they want because it's not real stock. They suppress it, and then the clients look at it. They don't have anyone to call. What's wrong with it? Oh, I knew I should never have bought an over-the-counter stock. I'm just going to get out. Because the stock market's the only market in the world where if the price goes down, you sell it. If the price goes up, you buy it. Imagine going to the souk in, I don't know, in Cairo to buy vegetables or to buy perfume. No, that's not a good example. I don't know much about perfume. To buy art, to buy furniture. And if the price of the furniture went down, not only would you not buy it from the person selling, you'd go back to your living room, you'd take all of your furniture and bring it to him and sell all of your furniture for nothing. But if his price of the furniture went up, you would fill your living room with more and more furniture at the high prices. It doesn't make sense. That's the psychology they're counting on. It's a pain, though. I know NVIDIA keeps going up, and I bet it'll go higher. but at some point it's going to collapse. But nobody knows when. And until then, you're looking at it. You could have put all your money from Logic into that. Now, I don't remember the ratios, Sada, but Collective Audience has been $1 recently, and I think at $1, I don't remember the ratios. I calculated it once, and I think we're break even or slightly ahead or slightly. I think we're ahead. I'll have to try to find the formula. It's not pretty, and that's the criminality of it. But I would buy more Logic. It's in the press releases. It's down. I did buy more Logic, and it's dead money for me. It's dead money because I'm not going to sell, and therefore I miss out on some of these other things everybody's doing. But bottom line on Logic is they've pre-announced to you that they're going to do 7 deals. They got 2 of them done. That means there's 5 left to go. My guess is there is a battle with the 5 remaining CEOs. Maybe Brent made a deal with one of the CEOs when the stock was 7 cents, and now the shorts have it down to a penny and a half, and the CEO says, "I don't want to do it anymore." And so Brent has to say, "Well, if you come in at a 5-cent valuation with everybody else, once we're all together, we're going to be much more valuable." I think that's going on. I don't know for a fact, but I think that's going on. That's the criminality of the system. The other risk, that's one risk. The other risk is I think he's going to have to issue more shares because to keep the shell clean, he has to stay current in his filings, and that costs money. I don't know how much more. Maybe he can get it done with 300 million total. But that could be part of the reason for the delay. That could also be part of the reason that the stock is suppressed. But where's the stock going to go if they're going to merge into $1 billion worth of companies, even if it takes time? Where's the stock going to go? To a penny? To zero? I don't think so. I think the risk reward is you have a trade there. And my guess is the trade is to 16 cents. My guess is the trade is to 16 cents. So if you buy it at 2 cents, you can make 8 times your money. When? Well, we're coming into tax season. It could happen this year, but I think you might just start planning on it being something that happens next year, both for just to take the pressure off and also to create a long-term capital gain from when you bought it. It might already be long-term. But I think Logic as a trade goes to 16 cents. You can always get out of it sooner. I don't think there's anything wrong other than this system is shorting the stock heavily, illegally. And so they're making the very currency that Brent has to buy other companies worth space less, worth space less than it otherwise would be. So that's dilutive, and he's got to fight that. I think he's good at that. I think he knows what he's doing now on it. The other thing you got to remember about logic is we all voted for a 1-for-50 reverse split. So that's going to bail out the shorts. I hate it. But on the other hand, let's go to the 37.5 cents. The 37.5 cents. Which was sort of a haircutted number at $1 billion for all 7 deals. And we'll just use 2 billion, even though it'll be more than that. So sometime next year, probably it's already been voted. They're going to do that reverse split. I think it'll be after all 7 companies come in. And so we'll have a stock worth, if you start at that price, 1875, and there'll be 40 million shares. It'll be on the New York or the NASDAQ. I hope it's not on the NASDAQ. Let's say it's on the NYSE. It'll be in biomedical sciences. It'll be cash flowing. It'll have growth. It'll be worth $1 billion or more. And it'll have research. It'll have institutional buyers. Do you think they're going to be able to short that stock? Or do you think it goes to 25 or even 30, 40 or $50? That might be what to do with logic, is to buy it while it's cheap and hold it for when it does all this and grows. But I'm not trying to bait and switch you. I think the trade is, 16 cents, maybe 20 cents. It's and all the information's out there. But the onslaught of selling is continuous. It's illegal, and it destroys the ability of Brent to actually get all the deals done. I think he will get them done. He's already gotten 2 done. He's got 5, and all 5, he's working on all 5. But it's a very powerful enemy we're up against. And the cause of it was Aubrey Advisors and Chadron Financial. They raised $5 million because in the first instance, they slow walked the answers to the SEC, which required more time, which required more money. They gave half to the lawyers and half to the financial advisors. And they left Logic and they left Collective Audience with nothing. Collective Audience, by the way, I want to try to do, I don't know if I'll be able to do an interview, but I want to try to do a video on it. The criminals pushed that stock under 1. So on Adina Friedman's NASDAQ, it would be delisted. Well, the CEO, and I give him great credit for this, he decided, okay, you want to delist us? We'll just move to the over-the-counter markets. And the stock went from 15 cents to over $1. I think it's at 75 cents now. And that story's not over with either, but they just destroy all these stories. And NVIDIA keeps going up. So why didn't we just put all of our money in NVIDIA and Amazon and Google? It's a good question. It's a good question. Anyway, that's a long answer on logic. Yeah, Matthew, the ETFs are all fraud. They lend out those shares. There's no real shares in ETFs. But no one's going to open the curtain all at once. No one's going to pull back and see the Wizard of Oz. And that's how it works. It's all fraud. It's all about creating these assets that they get fees on, and there's no real assets inside of them. Yeah, I'm starting to see a little bit better. Yeah, it's going well. I have to have my cataract operation, but he said my eyes are okay. Hey, Red Pepper Ronnie. Is that different than what Ham has been talking about with fake shares for Finger? Oh, God. Sean, when you trade in the US markets, there's 4 tickets a broker can write or a computer can write. One is you can sell stock you own. 2 is you can buy stock you don't own. 3 is you can sell stock you located or borrowed. And 4 is you can sell stock under the market maker exemption that you did not locate, that you did not have when you entered the order. That's a naked sale. You're selling stock which you can't immediately deliver. But Reg Show provides that you have to have in writing before you enter that order that you've located those shares. And that has to be in writing. Or that you've borrowed them, and that has to be in writing. Now, what Lynn Partners done, they create these 6-month convertible notes. For 6 months, they can't sell the stock that they have allocated at a prime broker, transfer agent. But they get the prime broker to accept that those shares are available. It's illegal. And they sell with that note as protection. Now, they do it with more than one prime broker, in my opinion. So they multiply that as well. We could stop this in a heartbeat if Ann Wagner gave a crap about it. But they're not fake shares. They're shares that don't exist. I don't know, what word would you use, Sean? The total amount of shares that exist for finger motion are about 50 million. The float, I think, is 10 million. But let's just use the 50 million. That's the real shares. According to Ham, there's 250 million which have been sold to you which were never located, never borrowed, never owned. Now, according to the guy in the American Stock Exchange, Ham is full of shit, and that's not true. There were private placements, and there's buybacks, and there's deliveries. I think he's wrong, but whatever. There is another side of the story. But so if Ham's number is correct, they're in your accounts that your broker dealer puts in your accounts, there's 250 million shares, but there's only 50 million that exist. The difference between 250 million and 50 million, you can call them something. Ham calls them fake shares, maybe. They just don't exist. It's just an entry in your statement. And they're not, they don't have a box of real shares and a box of fake shares. It's not defined that way. It shows up in your statement as shares of finger. Now, in the back office, there's a notation that those shares haven't been delivered yet, and they have the responsibility to demand receipt, but in practice, they don't do anything about it. Because it doesn't matter. The only way you're ever going to ask for your physical shares is if you leave the system. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars to do it. And if you want to ever get back in the system, it's not only going to cost you thousands of dollars, it's going to cost you a discount to the sales price. You're not going to do it. You're not going to leave the system. The system is all electronic. And in the example I just gave, for every one share of real existing, even though a lot of it's not even in the system, a lot of it's probably in the form of options or employee options or in the form of a convertible note, whatever. But let's just say it's all in the system. For every one share of finger that's real, there's 4 that are not. In that example, I don't know what the ratio is. But do you call those fake? What do you call them? They're not hidden in a dark pool. They're not in a file box. They don't get out to go get tickets and write fake across it. It's just the system. You pay cash, and entries in your account. I don't know. It's so hard to explain it, which means I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. The same thing happens at your bank. I'm telling you, the same thing happens at your bank. And no one understands it. And the way that it works is we all trust our bank and we trust the government. But it's the biggest con job in the world. I give up. I'm not gonna, I'll try to think of another way of explaining it. Naked shorting is not illegal. I've got a lawsuit. It's over there. I'll remember to bring it out next time. The 4th ticket is an exemption provided for under Regulation Show that says if you borrowed the shares in writing, if you located them in writing, you get an extra 2 or 3 days to bring them in. I think it's 2 days, but let's say 3. No one follows it. And then it steps into being fraud and illegal. But you can sell stock you don't own, or and you haven't located. That you cannot immediately put your hands on. I'll get the darn SEC written lawsuit and read it to you. But there's a brief window in which selling stock you don't have or own is legal. It's very brief, and they abuse that massively. It is fraud, but it's fraud that Wall Street participates in. They figure they allow it in commercial banking. Why don't they allow it here in securities banking? Is it illegal? Yeah, it's illegal. But at what point, when the regulators, smoking pot is illegal most places. Certain sexual acts are illegal most places, but they're not enforced. Those laws aren't enforced. So Gary is holding up the dividend. It's the only thing that makes sense. Martin has not come forward with a new problem from the SEC. I don't agree with you. Gary is focused on Bitcoin, not on the over-the-counter market. He couldn't care less about the over-the-counter market. I think everything in the SEC takes a long time. I also, for the 10th time, believe and know that they changed auditors. If you were a lawyer at the SEC, would you approve the dividend in the middle of a new audit? I wouldn't. I'd wait till the audit's done. He's been busy no-showing to trails and failing to get new reporting. Yeah, Gensler's horrible. It's horrible. He was there to protect Goldman Sachs. Let me speak more clearly. He was there to protect Goldman Sachs and all the other large prime brokers and pools of money, like Morgan Stanley, like Citadel, like SAC, and so on and so on. I say Goldman Sachs just to be brief, just like I say that lawyers involved in conflicts that we have. I'm talking about the lawyers that represent the shorts, and some lawyers you don't know whose side they're on. I'm not talking about Richard Hoffman. There, I chose my words carefully. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Woody. I hope you're right, Woody. God, I hope you're right. I think I've never had an argument that he's going to win. I think Trump won last time. I think Trump won in 2020. I stayed up all night watching it. But my question is, who counts the votes? Ham will come on. We can talk. He can talk about GDC and CJYO. I'm not gonna. I'll be careful. I'll go through charts maybe. I don't want to talk about I hate cruelty to animals. He didn't today talk about it yet. Relax. Vietnam loves you. Good morning, Vietnam. I think it'll be after the 5th. I don't know. I don't know. Just forget about it, William. The next siren you hear could be the guys with nuts. With the white jacket? That's right, Mannion. Is there any update on GDC? It's a piece of shit company, just like ZJYL is. They both have large naked short positions. They both have extremely high ownership from a handful of whales. They've been talked about on Twitter, and the shorts continue to sell. Do you see a pattern? Any stock you buy, the shorts continue to sell. Day in and day out. You can buy it once. They can just keep selling and selling and selling. As soon as the CEO of GDC knows when maybe an institution is going to buy his stock, I've asked him to call me first so I can tell you all that. Obviously, I'm being facetious. News is not going to move any of these stocks unless they drilled a well and it found oil at the bottom of a valley in Japan or something. News isn't going to move any of these stocks. What you're counting on for squeezes is big guys buying stock, driving the stock price up, and then the shorts have to cover. News isn't going to do that. But Giannis, I was asked many months ago not to speak about ZJYL and GDC on air. I think I've been clear about that, but I've learned I have to be specific. Somebody on Twitter was stating something, I forget now exactly what, that there was going to be this big buying, that it was going to run and it was going to do this, that, and that. And one of the whales, or one of the handful of whales, that thought it was me that was saying it. I didn't say it. They found out later it was somebody on Twitter. But they asked me to stop talking about it. So I did. Now I can't help it. Everybody asked me to talk about it. So ZJYL, GDC, NIXX, there's one other one. I just mentioned them all. But Eunice, I will not, even if I hear a whisper, I'm not going to share it with you. I'm not, even if I hear, oh, did you hear so-and-so bought 10,000? I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to talk about those stocks. Now, when I don't talk about them, it makes people upset. Why aren't you talking about them? So here it is. I was asked by the whales through somebody else not to effing talk about these shares online to the whole effing world. So I'm not going to. Now, that doesn't mean that something's going on, doesn't mean that nothing's going on. You can follow them on Twitter. I will ask Ham to talk about them. I don't think Ham has that restriction. So I will ask Ham to talk about them. And he can talk about them for you. But here's the story. ZJYL, many months ago, a handful of whales bought more than the entire float of the stock. They also did a forward split to try to catch out the shorts. I think it was 1 for 200, 200 for 1. So that creates a larger naked short position that has to be covered. I've heard or read that other things were done that I'm not going to share because I'm not sure if they're out there or not. I believe they were on Twitter, but you can find them on Twitter. I'm not going to say them. But the reason whales would buy more than the entire float of a piece of shit Chinese stock should be self-evident. And what's changed? They haven't sold, or the stock would be 10 cents. The stock hasn't really gone up. So what's changed? I don't know. Maybe things just like GME, AMC, sat for years before they ran. I don't know. But if I did know, I wouldn't tell you. I'm not going to talk about ZJYL or GDC rumors or hints or anything. I thought that I was doing a favor by bringing these names up because I believe these names are going to run. But I'm no longer going to talk about why I think that. I'm not going to hint at it. Nothing. The only time you're going to know it moves is when it moves. So your decision is, do I stay in the stock or do I get out? The market's telling me it's a piece of shit. This is a week old, I know. Market's telling me that the stock is a piece of shit and it's going down and it's worthless and therefore I'm going to believe that, which you can. I can't contradict it. I don't, what do they, is this the one that sells wheelchairs or something? But here's the chart, and this is GDC. It's come down into, I mean, this might be support, but it might not be. It might have to come down. It might have to come down to here. Might have to come down to $1 before it finds support. I don't know. Ham bought it. Ham bought GDC right up here. Do you see here where I'm circling? Ham bought it up here. He told you about it. He wrote it all the way down here. He wrote it, and then he sold his shares here. He sold his shares here. So he's totally out of it as far as I know. I'll try to find on X. Maybe I can do that now. I don't know how to get on X with you. But the rationale for GDC in the middle of August, over 2 days, 120 million shares traded. It gapped open and it ran all the way to 12. That's a nice trade. Unfortunately, most of that trade, well, no, that's not true. I think it was 2 days, but most of the high, most of the $12, I think was pre-market, or it was very brief, didn't last long. So it looks like we should have. I own very few shares. We should have sold at $5.50, $6, and they've been trading it off ever since. My opinion, Eunice, is, and I'm not going to be able to draw this very well. I would say from here, I would say from here down, maybe from here down. But you could argue that I'm manipulating that a little bit, but that's what I see. I see a stock that's being crushed by short sellers. If you notice a pattern, you can stop me, but they sell stock that doesn't exist. They sell it constantly. They spoof it, they swap it with each other, and they walk it down. Now, the last time they did that was over here, and Ham wrote it out. And again, you can say that I'm drawing these very self-interestedly, but that's just how I see it. Now, it took a while to climb out here, but sure enough, it did. And then it ran. Now, I'm unaware of any stock offering or deal that he did with the shorts. So I think this is a case, this is GED, where the stock ran, collapsed, and broke down, and the shorts have just taken control over it again. Even the whales can only buy once. I don't know what's going to happen, but my opinion is this stock is going to break out and go up. But could it do it over many months? Maybe. And if that's the case, Eunice, you might say to yourself, I'm just going to take my losses here and do something else. I wouldn't blame you. That's a market. But I think for me, this volume here is so big, it has to be computers, number one. Number two, I don't think they covered whatever that short position is. So my gamble, my belief is that GDC has more to go. This was just let's call it an opening salvo. I think there's more to go. But do I know? No. No one's telling me anything. No one. No one. But that pattern right there that I drew, other people might see different patterns, but I think this is very bullish. And I think when the stock breaks out, it'll go to 550. And if it breaks out of that, it's going to go a lot higher. And I bet it's hundreds of millions of shares. Why? Why would it do that? I don't know. It's not this isn't Nvidia, this isn't Chevron, this is a crap stock, but it is a stock. Let's go look. Let's go look. I probably don't have it here. It's got outstanding shares of 10 million, but it doesn't say what the float is. Okay, let's go to Yahoo. Okay, so it's shares outstanding 9.76 million, and that's the float 9.67 million. And then shares short, the real shares, I guess, 215,000. Yes, for what it's worth, I think that if these are all speculative purchases, and we are very small players in them, I will try. Maybe for tomorrow, I will try to figure out how we can research GDC on Twitter, ZJYL on Twitter, and we can go over some of the things that have been said there. But if GDC moves, it's going to go before, people are going, wow, did you see GDC this morning? It's up $8. You see that volume? Oh, wow. No one's going to know. No one's going to ring the bell. No one. And in the meantime, the computerized selling just goes on and on and on. And when you look at a GDC, it's got a $10 million market cap. And maybe they can say, well, why does it have this market cap? But I don't remember the story specifically. All I know is that the Ham bought it, which was good enough for me. He's already out, though. He waited and waited, and now he's in MLSS. MLSS. I don't think GDC is finished, but it doesn't look like that stock chart doesn't look like anything's happening tomorrow morning. If I were to flip a coin and just make a prediction about which stocks, how the stocks will trade, I will guess that ZJYL might go first. Go, I don't know how high. NIXX maybe next. Logic, I think, is going to go. It looks like this nickel stock is going. It looks like maybe something's happening with HNRC. CAUD's looking good, but if in terms of go, if you're looking for the potential of a short squeeze, and I move these around, but in my mind, ZJYL, NIX, GDC, and Logic could come in anytime, but maybe I would do Logic after that, December time. And Finger could go, if you believe him, it could go at any time. But I think I would put Finger maybe last in terms of a squeeze, only because I think it needs to go to show positive earnings. And maybe that's December, January timeframe. I don't know. None of them are going to take too long, do I think? And we can't precisely tell when they're going to go. But it's the same story. GDC has a small float. The entire float is owned, more than the float is owned by wealthy individuals. ZJYL, small float, the entire float is owned by wealthy individuals. NIXX has some news they've put out. Hey boy. But I think NIXX, it's a similar, I think it's low float. If I remember, it was 3 or 5 million shares, but they bought a company, so that might be higher, but those are restricted shares. And that used to be recruiter.com. And whilst I can't tell you, I don't know the number, but recruiter.com was destroyed by short selling. So I think those three have similar stories. Logic, although Logic now is hard to borrow, I think Logic, there's a lot of different short sellers. I'm not sure that anyone owns the whole float or anything like that. But I think Logic is a fundamental story. They're going to build $1 billion company, and possibly very quickly. I say that roughly. It's trading for under 2 cents. That HNRC, I don't remember the numbers, but forever that stock is trading at a massive discount to its reported book value. Maybe finally, if I had to guess, they're going to drill up some of their reserves, and that'll change that picture. So anyway, Eunice, I would say ZJYL first, NIXX second, GDC third, LGIQ fourth, and FNGR fifth. And all by January, February timeframe. It's all a guess, though. It's all a guess. Yes, old mold. Finger has private competition in China. Finger has public competition in China. And the government is considering other companies other than Finger. I think you nailed it. I think it's time to get out of Finger. You nailed it. So Matthew, I think Finger, let's go to, because this guy's, he's just trying to scare you. Let's go to the minutes, the license they have to resell minutes. to my memory, and it's in the interviews, public, they're out there. To my memory, there were 3, maybe 5, but I remember 3 licensed, I could be wrong, it's just a very few licensed resellers of minutes that are allowed. Finger is one of them. But there are some legacy, whatever you call them, resellers of minutes that I don't think they even have a license, and they are part of the competition. But this is a wide open market. Finger does roughly 15 million, maybe a little more, of minutes at a time, where they put the cash up to buy the minutes, $15 million. This is a multi-billion-dollar marketplace. So, yes, there's competition. I think Finger's the best. But the competition doesn't mean Finger doesn't get every minute it asks for. The only question would be, if there's competition and Finger went to the gate to buy minutes, would it be turned down? No, never. They always get as much as they want. And that's the entree into the contracts. Now, on the, I'll ask, but on this emergency vehicle contract, from the press release, it looks like it's exclusive. And as you say, it's certified, or somebody said it's certified. So this question about competition is idiotic. And bringing up a private company is a complete non sequitur. If you have competition, who cares if it's public or private? And on the data, the access to the data, I'm sure that it's possible, and I can ask, that there's other players in the data market. But Finger is unique, whether it's special or not. They have contracts with 3 of the largest Chinese telecoms, and it's all of their data, all 3. They have access to that data in a, all the, what's the word? It's all anonymous, So they have been working on, and everyone's impatient, they've been working with mathematicians and scientists and laboratories to develop the algorithms and the product that can use that data for profit. Now, could there be competition? Sure. There's competition in everybody's life. There's competition to this guy. There's dozens of fudsters out there. Dozens. They all collect money from Lynn Partners. And so he's got competition. Everybody's got competition. All right, Lucky. Well, Steve. Yeah, it's probably not worth it, Steve. It's probably not worth it. I don't think I'm getting it across. And people want, you guys are retail, so am I. And you get abused. You had a guy that would say, and you have another guy that comes on roaring kid. They don't tell you anything. And that's how everyone gets abused. If there's secret information or a clue, I can't say anything. If I give you a hint at a stock, all of a sudden it becomes it becomes, it's impossible. I can see why there's a wall between retail and institutional. If I were still on Wall Street, went to the men's room, a guy might say to me, "Hey, I'm hearing things about I don't know GDC. Really? What are you hearing? Well, it's blah, 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 blah. Really? When? Well, we don't know when, but okay." And I might go back to my desk and I'd think, okay, I'll buy some. But I'm not going to pester him. He'll tell me when, or I might run into him again. You hear anything else like you're doing? Sure enough. But uh, when it's retail, you want me to put it out there. No wonder they don't want me saying anything. It just destroys the effort. It just destroys it. Now the criminals destroy it by selling the stock constantly, constantly, constantly. I don't know how to fight that. I don't know how to fight that. But that's exactly why you are interested in a GDC, in a ZJYL, in maybe, I hope, in an NIXX, in some of these others, is for the potential of a 5X, a 10X, a 20X. And, I used to think these things could go much higher. There were TKO, TKO, TKD, HKD, TOP. These stocks went to the moon, but they don't ring a bell. They don't ring a bell when it happens. That's a good point, Matthew. Didn't think of that. The markets are probably dead because of the election. The first vote will be 12 o'clock tonight, midnight tonight. That little town in New Hampshire. What's it called? I can't remember. They have like 5 or 7 votes. So we'll get our first clue at midnight tonight. APS 71. Hi to everybody. I'm sorry that it looked like I was going to have a heart attack. Look, this guy is here to make you question why you're in Finger. He doesn't give you his name, and he doesn't give you any specifics. He just tries to sound reasonable and gives you asinine FUD. I take it that means he's in trouble in a short position in Finger, and the big players. There's some big players in trouble with a short position in Finger. Obama grandfather Stanley Dunham, cousin was George H.W. Bush. Isn't that something? That's what Candace Owens says. And I'm not ready to go there with her. But she says it's the old bloodlines. I'm not ready to go there with her. But everybody's related, it seems like. Kamala's grandfather on father's side is white. Yeah, he's Irish and a Sephardic Jew. I heard he was a Syrian Jew. I didn't know he was CIA. I heard he was Mason. A Mason. Finnegan. And it had Joe Biden in there? Wow. Wow. And then her father is both Indian and then descendant it it's all mixed in, you know. But there's no Jamaican, there's no Jamaican me crazy, there's no African in her bloodline. Another concerning point is China being a communist country. Wow. Oh my gosh, I didn't think of that. That's, you got it. That's the reason not to invest in Finger. I knew there was a reason. China is a communist country. It was right there in front of my face. China's communist. Ah, what a relief. Now I don't have to follow Finger anymore. China's communist. Might as well invest somewhere else. It's the world's fastest growing economy. It's the world's largest economy by many measures. It's an economy that isn't squandering money on wars, but is building up commerce around the world. But you're right, it's communist. That's the thing. That's the reason to stay away. Guys, you shouldn't be in Finger because China's communist. They could take all of the profits. So all the profits you're waiting for, China could take because they're communist. Finger is a US firm. If we have trade wars, I guess anything can happen. But I think this guy finally has figured it out. You can't invest in anything that does business in China because the commies are coming. Pat Byrne wants to use blockchain. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, that's one way, but I think they can already keep track of everything. I think the thing you have to go back to is a vibrant over the counter market. If you're going to raise money, like Lynn Partners, you've got to say who bought the note. He never does. You've got to maintain a market. I think you have to go back to having real markets. I think you have to get rid of derivatives. I don't think you can have high speed, high frequency trading on stocks under $1 billion. I think it's more than just blockchain. No, I don't think Univest is involved. I don't know what you mean by involved. Uh, uh, as you know, 2 Septembers ago, I think September 11th or 13th, the company announced they had filed an S3 to raise 300 million in a shelf offering via Univest. It was a 2-year contract, and I read the filing. Either party could cancel the agreement with 30 days notice. According to him, Ham said it. It's sometime in maybe August, Fingermotion notified Univest that Fingermotion did not want to raise money through Univest. They gave the 30 days notice. To me, that means they're going to raise money elsewhere. But I don't know what you mean involved. I am sure that if Fingermotion needed to raise $200 million to buy, a competitor, or if they needed to, uh, uh, if Univest had an idea that, hey, Finger, you can go do this same business in North Korea. I don't know. I'm making it up. I'm sure they're still involved with each other that way. Just because that contract's broken up doesn't mean the phones don't work. They know each other intimately. I bet they get some business done. But for the time being, Matthew, the way I read that is Finger wants to raise some money, maybe a smaller amount somewhere else. And they don't want to be tied up with the Univest deal because then they have to pay 2 commissions. Hey, Ted. Financial don't matter anymore. I know it's all freaking fraud. Dark pool, is it like an IOU? No, it's just a dark pool. Look, I never traded on the dark pools, but a dark pool is where you can go and cross 100 million shares with Stevie Cohen. It's all hidden. It has to be reported at some time. As far as I know, every trade has to be reported. It's also a way you can hide all the buy trades during the day on the dark pool while the criminals that work with old drive it down, and then report the buys at the end of the day after the market closes. So there's no pressure. It's just a form of manipulation. But a dark pool is, and the lit exchange, it's what it means. No one knows what's happening. It's a lot like the expert market. You don't know what's going on. But we'll ask, Ham would probably answer it a lot more effectively than I do. I know, isn't that horrible when he's talking about it? I'm way behind. I didn't, Carvana, Ham made money on Carvana. I don't know what, I don't know. I'm not going to give any advice, but I think Carvana sounds like a bad business plan right now. Hey, John. Counterfeit everywhere. Counterfeit. That was the word. My brain, maybe I'm having a stroke. Mail in the votes may not save them, but they can turn the computer switches. And I'm looking forward to watching it tomorrow night. Hey, kitties. But I think we'll just be witnesses. 777. They paid off that Lynn debt 2 years ago. I think Finger's chart is very interesting. I like Finger's chart. To me, Finger can give you a short squeeze, but it's giving you a great fundamental story. And guys like Old wish that stock were 10 cents. It's not going to 10 cents. You know what, Pete? I don't care what she is, really. It's just she's using it to get ahead, and she's calling herself black. If I were African American, that would insult me to no end. I'm kind of insulted that she's Irish. But at least that's really what she is. Can you imagine that our first female president pretended she was black and her family's wealth came from being slave traders and cruel slave traders, slave owners? I guess only God could set that one up. No, no, I'm not. I spoke to the receiver and I asked him, should I put my name in? And he asked me not to. Um, and the court's already made the decision to go with him. I think the whales like the receiver very much. And so I don't think it's on the table anymore. Uh, and they struck a deal that made sense to them. Um, I think anybody that talks about the receiver maybe ask Richard Hoffman, but I'm not willing to take back what I said on how expensive it is, or that um, or that it could take a long time. Um, but I think it's the best way of going forward with the whales and with the strategy they have. So I wouldn't intend to interfere with it, and I would just rather not talk about it anymore. Um, um, all right. Well, Ham didn't call back. It's 5 o'clock. Let's see how things closed. Fingers down. You know, I think I'm going to sell everything. I never thought of that. It just never occurred to me that China has a communist government. Of course, now that I think about it, I studied economics and government, and there's a distinction between a capitalist system and a socialist system. There's a distinction between democracy and communism, but communism isn't a financial system. So that's right. I mean, they're using a hybrid or just outright capitalism, uh, and the government is communist. So maybe it's all right. But gosh, you guys are lucky that old mold is here, because I personally never would have thought of the fact that that China's government was communist and say they could raise taxes on corporations as soon as the election was over, or they could tax capital gains before you sell. I never thought of that. That would never happen here because we have a democracy, we have a republic. That's right. It's better to be here. God, I wish. So smart. So smart. So whoever said the markets are all dead, he's right. Um, Maureen Callahan, she's saying the signs are pointing in a clear direction. Let's see who she's saying. It's a long article. She says, Harris, as best I recall, has only ever answered one political question quickly, clearly, and succinctly. When Anderson Cooper asked her, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist? Yes, I do, Harris replied. Yes, I do. Otherwise, she has stuck to her well-trod talking points, all three of them. She is not Joe Biden. She is not Donald Trump. And she recognizes that Americans are an ambitious people with goals, dreams, and aspirations. She's not coming to the point of who she thinks is. All right, so as we enter the final hours, there are bellwethers pointing to Trump. So Maureen Callahan is suggesting Trump. Well, that's good. All right, everybody. I guess I had another bad thing. We can go over this, but let me do it quickly. We can do it another time. But I want to quickly see. It's all about the politics. We can do that. That can be filler when we have our election night. All right, one of his guys is saying there's a AI play, Boeing, Intel. All right, so we can read about that. There's an AI play that if Trump wins, could awaken, and it's Intel. That's interesting. And they're coming after NVIDIA. Intel is not sitting on its hands, ceding the AI chip market to NVIDIA. Intel has a strategy to earn back more market share of cutting edge chips. Interesting. We'll read that. So maybe Intel. Buy Intel up to $26 a share. I like that. I like a new idea. One expense most consumers will never cut. Imagine the economy is crashing, inflation is running rampant, the Fed is raising interest rates, layoffs, you're fired, savings are depleted. But if you did find yourself in that spot, would you cancel your streaming services? Would you skip mortgage payments? Today, the cell phone bill, do you see that? This applies to finger. Today, the cell phone bill is the likely last thing that you would cut. You might miss a rent payment, a mortgage payment, risk eviction or foreclosure before you'd miss paying your cell phone bill. That's by Zach Scheit. That's what Ham says about finger. Verizon is a turnaround story. All right. I want to read this one. We'll save this for another time. I wish I could read it, though. My eyesight's not good. But this is about the DJ Basin. And there's a company CMEX, CX. And it's 3 or 4 pages. Prairie Operating Company. All right, that's one to look forward to. I'm not going to do it now; it's too much. And profit from the replacement cycle. 3M. And then Jim Rickards. When Russia finally puts Ukraine out of their misery and wins the war, do you see any impact on oil prices? It is clear Russia is winning the war. Oil prices are headed lower, not because of the war, but because of recession. The drop in oil prices could be accelerated if Trump wins because he will drill, baby, drill. I'm not positive on that. They'll probably dip, but I don't think. Well, we'll see. All right, everybody. I'm going to go walk my dog, and I'm sorry, as usual. I guess that gentleman, he was a kind gentleman. I'm forgetting his name. Was saying that I probably shouldn't do this anymore. Maybe he's right. I get too upset. But let's do the election tomorrow, and let's go from there. I thought Ham was going to call back in, but he didn't. And stay in touch with Richard Hoffman for GTII. I'll try to get the interview as soon as I can for Finger. Those other stocks, I don't know anything about, but like I say, I gave you if I had to guess, I think what order they will quote unquote go in if they ever go. Your wife, is she a goer? She likes photography. Oh, say no more, squaw, say no more. Candid photographs? He asks him knowingly. A nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat. Say no more, squaw, say no more. We're going to go outside. We're going to go outside right now. And no more wasting everybody's time. All right, I'm going to go walk my dog. And I'm sorry again. I don't know. I don't know how to make it better. I get upset. I get frustrated. Maybe I should just let Ham speak. He never gets upset. All right. 12 o'clock tonight, first voting results are in from New Hampshire, I think. And I think it's going to be Trump. All right. Talk to you later.